Good afternoon, dear friends, and welcome. And why not say good evening to everyone following us right now at the SSB broadcast on one more Saturday in this beautiful month of August. Still summertime, warm outside, and we hope to bring this warmth to one another through our talk today and through this meeting. As usual, we would like to start our moment of here to before we start learning, before we start to connect with a higher thought, to connect with our mentors and the mentors of the SSB through a reading of the book Happy Life, as well as our initial prayer. And then we will announce our dear friend who will be speaking with us today and bringing us, as you can see on the bottom of the screen, miracles, the topic of miracles of the gospel. Dear friend Adriano Barbo. Today, Joana de Angelis brings to us the message. Some natural occurrences in the process of human existence are considered misfortunes. The loss of loved ones, accidents with painful consequences, economic ruin, affective bankruptcy, earthquakes, and other cataclysms. Certainly, these are grave problems, but not, however, real disasters, except for the person who allows himself to be undermined by their effects, thereby destroying life's highest values. Knowing how to face these unpleasant phenomena, one can extract real value from them and be happy. So, as our dear friend Paula always reminds us, right? What's the lesson to be learned from these difficult moments? We're not making, obviously the suffering of others any small, but for sure reminding one another that we're here to learn. Today, then, let us connect with our higher minds, our mentors, the mentors of the SSB, to allow us to have a moment of learning that will serve as guidance to all of us to connect with our Master Jesus, since we'll be talking about these amazing moments that have been highlighted in our lives through the life of Master Jesus, the miracles, the performance of these amazing cures and treatments through our Master. May these points of light be a point of light in our lives. May this Saturday bring us ever more together as we enlighten ourselves together. And it is with our hearts full of joy that we also extend this prayer to our dear friends, our family members who cannot be here with us today. And we also extend it to those who are going through some issues right now, perhaps some that Joana de Angelis brought in her message. Bring comfort to their hearts, to their minds, and let us pray so that things can settle down, can come to a normal condition. Wishing everyone the best to continue in this amazing reincarnatory plan, and those following us on the other side, that they be prepared to reincarnate with us and in this planet. We thank you, dear Lord, for this amazing moment, the opportunity to serve, and so be it. So, as we were saying, here we have again our dear friend Adriano Barbo, actually, in another take, talking about miracles of the gospel. As usual, we always like to introduce our dear friend in both ways, in a formal way and a friendly way as well. In a friendly way, Adriano is a person just like you and I, try to work and do the best that we can in both realms of life. And formally, he is one of the individuals responsible for the Mount Vernon Spiritist Center in New York, working, giving talks throughout the tri-states, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, sometimes Massachusetts, you name it. And here with us, and several times, this is the second time, I believe already, right? Adriano here in Maryland this year. And we're not going to extend this too much because we would like to get to the content of this talk. And we will be, again, discussing the miracles of the gospel. We'll be talking about an hour or so. And then, as usual, we will be taking your comments, your questions as well, through the whatever stream you are actually following us. Please share your comments, and we'll be sharing with you and with Adriano at the end. Adriano, please go ahead. I'm gonna add your PowerPoint here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Leo. And check it out, my camera if it's showing okay over there. Kind of put the full screen here.
It is
Just that
perfect. Yes. So now it's awesome. Thank you.
that's not perfect. um, thank you very much, Leo. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening us today in this very beautiful evening. It's kind of hot here in New York. Um, we are bringing here some ideas and discussion about the miracles of the gospel. I suggest everyone to read the book Genesis, in which Kardec works a lot about the gospel of Jesus. So, uh, because there are so many miracles in the Gospels, about 40, total of 40. The idea that I'm trying today to explain you is that there is much more on the miracles than the phenomena itself. Jesus wanted us not only to, to see his love and compassion towards healing people and other kind of miracles, but as well there's a profound teachings in every step um, of the happening of the miracles, which so-called miracles of the gospel. So in this way, I'm gonna bring like 7 miracles, and I'm gonna bring a little bit of everyone because the miracles contain so much lessons that usually I do a miracle per talk per hour or so. So it's like the resurrection of Lazarus. I took 1 hour and a half only in that one. But today he is so to bring you the ideas and so you can go and read and study and imagine and look for more things. So I brought just a little bit of the sevens, and I brought here like a classification. It is not. I took it from the Bible Gateway, I guess, the way they divided it. But you can divide it the way you want it, and so forth. So just for us to have a overview of the miracles of the gospel. All right, and like there's this Jesus fed thousands of people, in which I'm gonna bring one miracle about that. We all know, just the multiplications of the bread and the fish. Jesus cast out evil spirits, which is dealing with the spirits, the obsessors, which we're gonna talk a little bit later. Jesus healed the blind, deaf, sick, injured, and infirmed. The healing part of the gospel is, which is the majority of the miracles, is including the healings. Jesus turned water into wine. There's just one miracle about that. Um, and Jesus controlled water and other elements of the universe, in which the time in Jesus walked upon the water, and Jesus caught a surprising amount of fish, helping when the time when Jesus instructed the disciples to put the net in a certain place of the sea, and he caught a lot of fish. And Jesus raised people from the dead, which is the miracle in which Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, which we're going to talk about it later. But before I bring a little bit of the miracles that I'm trying to explain here, to introduce is the vision and the understanding of the miracles of Jesus according to Spiritism is much more profound and in a way much different from other interpretation from other religion. Uh, First, it is a doctrinary, as a principle that Jesus, by doing the so-called miracles, didn't, uh, um, went over the laws of nature. He didn't transgress any law. Did Jesus make all the miracles, all the the healings of the blind and etc. according to the laws of nature? We, for example, know that the healings that Jesus performed, and then he said, "You can do what I do and much more." So we see it over the history that many men actually healed many people. We have, for example, in Brazil, many mediums, the so-called healing mediums, they cured blind people, they cured people, with mortal illnesses. We have many examples in Brazil and elsewhere. And so it means that it is in the laws of nature, this kind of healing. So in a way, Jesus wasn't an exception. He did, of course, with excellence. And of course, Jesus didn't want us to see his miracles as just a matter of power. Because, for many religions and for many people, the only purpose of the miracles of Jesus was mainly to show strength and power. Here I am, I came from God, and only I can do this such a, you know, uh, um, difficult healings, because at the time there's no history telling that any other people could do what Jesus had done. For us spiritists, Jesus didn't want us to see him in the miracles only as a powerful spirit. No, Jesus wants to teach us much and much more using his abilities to heal people, to walk on the water, and so forth. That's what I'm going to discuss here over these miracles that I'm going to bring to you today, all right? Because Jesus didn't, he didn't need the miracles to hold to show his power. He is the one who created earth, who, worked with us since billions and billions of years ago. Showing off with miracles wouldn't be, worth of Jesus. He didn't want to show off by doing the so-called miracles. And for us, there's much more in there than just the healing of some people. That and Here I gonna bring the first one, when Jesus, fed thousands of people. They say that's about 5,000 people, in which Jesus fed using just five loaves of bread and some fish. So I'm gonna read the full account here. So you may see my face a little big here because I'm gonna get close to the screen. In which Jesus said, Jesus replied, "They do not need to go away." No, actually, sorry, I'm sorry. The International Version, and it's in Matthew 14, 16, 21. Jesus replied, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." We have only five loaves of bread and two fish, they answered. "Bring them here to me," he said. And he directed the people to sit down on the grass, taking the five loaves and the two fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate was about 5,000 men, besides women and children. So we see in every miracles of the Jesus, in the way that disciples describes it, there is a conversation, there is a dialogue between the characters in here with the disciples. Jesus could have done that in many different ways. and why he chose that way to make the miracle. For example, this crowd of people, they were hungry. They were around Jesus for a long time because Jesus was teaching them, you know, the teachings of the gospel that we have: forgiveness, love, and etc. And Jesus, first of all, he stayed there for long hours, giving them, of course, the bread of the soul, which is the teachings that he gave. And then Jesus knew that these people were hungry, but he didn't say nothing to the disciples. He didn't take the initiative first. He waited the disciples to notice that, and the disciples came to Jesus and asked the Jesus to send the people away because they needed to eat. And Jesus said, "No, don't let them go. Don't send them away. You give them food to eat." Imagine they had nothing. They had nothing, and Jesus knew that. Why Jesus would say them, give them the food to eat? And the disciples said, "Wow, we don't have nothing." But Jesus insisted to look, to ask them to look in between the people, among the people, to find something. And then that's when they found some bread and some fish. And Jesus did the multiplication, gave them, the food to share with the people. First of all, here, sometimes it's just like that in our lives. There are the seems impossible obstacle in our way, and we don't want to deal with that. We want to send the problem away, be it to feed people, to give food to people, or other things. In this case, Jesus said to the disciples, "You don't send the problem away, you do the job." Because they came to Jesus, "We have to send the people away, we don't have food." But Jesus said, "No, that's your job. That's you to do because the people is around us, is among us, is our duty to help these people. How can you send these people away?" It is just like this, in life sometimes. We just want to delegate the problem or send the people away because it looks like that the problem is too big. It's too big for us to deal with. That's what it happens a lot around ourselves. People see the world is turning upside down. The problem is too big, so I can't do nothing. In these circumstances, we see people, rejecting to helping people because they think that they can't help. I can do nothing. This people has a big problem. This country has a big problem, and so forth. But Jesus is asking us not to send the problem away, not to delegate only the problem for other people, or say that we can do nothing. Look around, looking among the people. So that's when the disciples found some of bread and some fish, and Jesus did the multiplication. Jesus could have, asked the people himself. Jesus couldn't have, standed up and asked, and yelled to the people, "Do you have something? Do you have some loaf of bread? Do you have some fish so I can multiply?" No, no. But Jesus was using you in a way the disciples. It was a cooperation between the master and the disciples. Jesus could have done all by himself, but he wanted the disciples to participate in the work of God. There's a lot of problem around ourselves that Jesus or the Spirit could address themselves, but they wanted to use us. We can do something. The disciples couldn't multiply the bread. The disciples couldn't do what Jesus have done, but the disciples could, ask around for the bread, could ask around, for something. And later on, Jesus, after multiplying the bread, doing the big job, asked them to, to bring the baskets full of bread and distribute for the people. Is a cooperation among, with the master and with God. Jesus as well in the end could have, done, walked around the people and give the bread himself, but no, he haven't done that. So it's just a little bit that there's so much more. We can stay here another, a lot of time because we have another six or so to go through. But here, two lessons that we have to learn from this miracle. When we see a big problem ahead ourselves, don't give up. Let us not give up. Let us not send away the problem. Let us see there's a little thing in there that we can do. And this little thing, it might and maybe turn to be a great help for to solve a big problem. The five loaves and the two fishes were enough to feed 5,000 people. Sometimes we have to believe because we see that when we start and do our little, the big job, the big picture to do is God and Jesus. If we do the little part that we do, it's gonna turn out much different than we thought. But if we just, stay there and say that it's too much for us, and then of course we're gonna lose the opportunity to cooperate and be us in service of God to help one another. And let us not think that the problem is not ours. The disciples thought that the problems of the hungry people were not theirs, but were theirs. If we're facing something, we're in the midst of a chaos, we're in the midst of something big, it is ours too, and it is our job, it's our responsibility to do something. Let us not send away, and let us remember and have faith that if we do our little, something big, of course, or something better will come. And that's one of the greatest lessons that Jesus brought here for us to remember. And of course, one person when I was talking about this miracle here, he reminded me, and there is as well the person, the people who gave the five loaves of bread and two fishes. They were generous. They were compassionate toward others because they could have hidden their food, they could have hidden their fish and not shared with others, right? There were like people involved here that everyone did something. These people that gave the five food, helped Jesus. The other person that gave the fish as well, they were generous, they were not selfish to keep themselves, and by distributing to others they fed themselves as well. Sometimes we can play this part. We are not able to do the job, but we give something, others will do the rest. There's so much in these miracles that we can talk many more. And then Jesus heals the obsessed boy. My glass here. Make it in the back. Jesus heals the demon possessed boy. When they came to the crowd, a man approached Jesus and knelt before him. Lord, have mercy on my son, he said. He has seizures and is suffering greatly. He often falls into the fire or into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not heal him. You unbelieving and perverse generation, Jesus replied. How long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me. Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy, and he was healed at the moment. Then the disciples came to Jesus in a private and asked, why couldn't we drive it out? He replied, because you have so little faith. Truly, truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. So only this one here is giant, but I just want to bring 3 points here. Is this father that has his son obsessed by spirits? here in this time they call demon, but we know this is just a evil spirit, you know, exerting an obsession on this boy. And his father wanted to help the son, but himself couldn't do it, right? And he entered to the disciples, and the disciple couldn't do as well. And then he came to Jesus for help and knelt before Jesus and asked for the help. And that's when Jesus rebuked the spirit, and the boy had healed, because it was just a matter of obsession in which this is evil spirit were obsessing the boy. Of course, we don't know why, but we could imagine something that could have happened between themselves in previous lifetimes. But first of all, here we see the love of a father. In many miracles of Jesus, we see some familiar, some family member, um, you know, asking Jesus to help their loved ones. We see many fathers, not many mothers, but we see many fathers asking for intercession for their daughter or boy or son. Here we see a father's love for his son. Could be a mother's love for his son, right? So this father loved so much his son that he wanted the son to be freed from the illnesses of obsession. And he insisted, he went to the disciples, they couldn't do it. And then he went up to Jesus, please, Jesus, save my son. Because my son sometimes jumps into the fire and sometimes jumps into the water. Um, and in symbolism in here, we see that, and the Spiritist teaches us that obsession sometimes can go as long as many reincarnation, can not only a couple of years, but can stay for multiple lifetimes, can prevail over body and death, and go to the spirit world and come back. It can be the case in here because he jumped in the water, he jumps into the fire. You know, when we are obsessed, when we are obsessed, it's like we are in this fire. And the water means, the symbolism of water could mean here incarnated, and the symbolism of fire here can be the symbolism of and discarnated, state of being. When we are in the spiritual world, the obsessed, because we are freed of our bodies, is burned so deep, so that we incarnate. It's like, you know he would say that his son would be like jumping, from death of the body to the spiritual world and back, and nothing can stop it. And this kind of obsession happens when we don't forgive each other. It can that we can hide in the body, we can jump in the body, and the obsession continues. We can jump out of the body through the death of the body and go back to the spiritual world, and even there, the obsession can go on. Only the love of Jesus through forgiveness that we give to each other is able to stop that. Because in the dialogue here, when the in this case here, for example, where it was a very deep obsession, this boy could be jumping out of the cliff, out of something, jumping into the people, out in front of a horse or somewhere. But he said fire and water. Why fire and water only? So we can give an interpretation that this obsession were long, long time, and Jesus, with understanding the love of a father, as well here, we understand that our love for someone has power in the laws of the universe. We can intercede for someone else. That's why we pray for someone else, right? For loved ones. Jesus, please help my brother, help my daughter, help someone else. And sometimes we think that because this person may not have so much credit, is not a good person yet, doesn't deserve. No, it can be that our love is taken as a credit. In this case here, we don't know if the boy really deserved or repented, but the love of the father that counted a lot here for Jesus. Jesus told nothing about the boy, about his faith, like he said in many other occasions, your faith has saved you. It told about the man, the father. It means that when we really want to help someone else, so it works in despite of the status, the spiritual status of this third person. Can be a friend, can be a family member, can be someone else. And well, that's why intercession that we do in the center, we do the intercessory prayer for someone else. We see a lot of this in the Bible. Someone else in asking for someone else in favors of someone else. And of course there's in the end here where the disciples thought, why couldn't you rebel? Why couldn't we detach the spirit from the you boy? And Jesus said, because you had little faith. What Jesus wanted to tell us, when we have deep love, we oh, I'm sorry, something happened in my computer here. Okay, came back. When we have big love, we are able to do big things. But the disciples in that time couldn't, understand that, and even more, they were not developed their big love yet. They are our authority, and our faith is of course integrated with the love, the quantity, I would say that way, the degree of love that we already developed in ourselves. In the way, when we pray for someone else, when we even pray for ourselves or ask for ourselves, the faith has a big part on the job. It's not only about the asking. It's not only about asking for ourselves or somebody else, but is as well about our faith, our trust. And the disciples didn't have that. They couldn't have the authority, the moral authority to detach their spirit. And Jesus was teaching all of us, when we deal with evil, we have to have something also to you know um, to give, to counter the evil. It's not about facing evil itself. It's about how much love, how much power of love we have to counteract the act of evil. Oh my God! Just a moment here. Let's go to the next one here. Jesus changes water into the wine. On the third day, a wedding took place at 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 Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied, "My hour." Oh my God. "My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Nearby stood six stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the to the brim. Then he told them, "Now draw some out and take to the master of the banquet." They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into the wine. He did not realize when it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, "Everyone bring out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now." So, because of our time, I'm gonna bring just something here. One is that many people today they drink alcohol and including a lot of wines, not just occasional wine. And there, in when and they would say, "No, Jesus had drank wine. Why not? Can't we drink as well?" Or people that drink one cup or another here and there, not as of a vicious drinking that we see nowadays. Many vicious people on drink of alcohol, they give that excuse, and it is not right. Jesus wanted not at all to teach us any vice. Jesus wanted not us to drink wine in excess and get drunk, not at all. And Jesus didn't transform that into the wine for people to get drunk, to satisfy the pleasures of our souls or for our body. No, if we can't understand that, let us not jump into conclusion say that Jesus endorsed and supported the drinking. No, Jesus never wanted that, and that's a classical point for us. And Emmanuel, in his book, or one of his book, he said, in this miracle, one of the first, if not the first miracle that Jesus did in his time, was a contract, because here was a wedding, you know, and Emmanuel says that was a wedding between the heavens and earth. It's that when Jesus, like, was sealing his ties with the humans, with us, in that day was like established a relationship, a pact, a marriage with Jesus and the angels with us, people incarnated or discarnated. One of the symbolism of this contract, that's what Emmanuel tells us, one of the symbolism of these transformations of the wine, the water into the wine. And in here we see that when Jesus transformed the wine, it tastes so great. It was one of the best wines ever. Tasted so marvelous that when the master of the banquet, you know um oh my god, this computer is giving me a hard time today. The master of ceremony tasted it and said, "Wow, this is like one of the greatest wine." It's like, they were saving great wine since the beginning of the party, because usually you'll give, the one wine first and then the other one. So people, were drank already. That's what, the teachings of Jesus. Jesus itself is good always. Is good always. If we choose the good wine, what is the good wine here? The good wine here is the teachings of Jesus, is the teachings of love. The bad wine, where we get drunk, is the things of the world. We got so drunk with the world, with the pleasures of the world, right? Fame, uh, power, corruption, all those kinds of things is the cheap wine. And the good wine is love, is compassion, is forgiveness. It's the teachings of Jesus. That's what the good wine is, and that good wine never let us drunk. Never. We can drink as much as we can because there's no alcohol in it. Would say that way. We can drink as much compassion as we want. We can drink as much love as we want. We can drink as much goodness as we can drink and never can get drunk, delirious. But when we drink out of the fame, riches with no good use, pleasures of the flesh in excess, avarice, egotism, selfishness, and so forth. That's the bad wine that people drink every day and they get drunk. If we decide to go to the wedding of Jesus and let us, drink the good wine. Let's close this window here again. Sorry. Let us go to another one here because my time is flying. Jesus and the fishes. Jesus stood on the shore on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. He talked out to them. Friends, haven't you any fish? No, they answered. He said, throw your net on the right side of the boat and you will find some. When they did, they were unable to haul the net in because of the large number of fish. Then the disciples whom Jesus loved said to Peter, it is the Lord. As soon as Simon Peter heard him say, it is the Lord, he wrapped his outer garment around him, for he had taken it off, and jumped into the water. The other disciples followed in the boat, towing the net full of fish, for they were not far from shore, about 100 yards. When they landed, they saw a fire of burning coals there with fish on it and some bread. Jesus said to them, bring some of the fish you have just caught. So Simon Peter climbed back into the boat and dragged the net ashore. It was full of fish, 153, but even with so many, the net was not torn. So, I just wanted to this miracle in which supposed called miracle here was done when Jesus was discarnated. He appeared to the disciples. That's why in the beginning they didn't recognize Jesus, but later on they did. And then Jesus, as we can see here, instructed them to put the net in a proper place so they could catch so many fishes. 2 points only that I'm gonna bring here fast is that and it is explicit as well in many other occasions where Jesus get his interest to help us. Jesus help us in every remains of our life. Sometimes we want to ask Jesus only in concerning some spiritual matters, like but Jesus helps us in many occasions. And Jesus here, the fishes that those disciples took, they were fishermen. That were their profession. They lived by fishing and selling the fishes. You know, and we can see in this miracle here that Jesus helped them in their profession. Jesus got interested in helping them cut the fish, and of course later on they would sell their fishes. So what it means to us here, this despite whatever profession we have, we can have the help of Jesus. Jesus is interested in helping us get the better of our profession, right? Not for bad use, of course, but of course to bring progress, to bring prosperity to earth, so we can be stronger and cooperate with one another. Whatever profession we are, Jesus is interested in helping us. But of course, He Jesus, got together with them afterwards and shared the meal with them. You know, as a friend, he shares a meal with the disciples. Jesus wants to tell us that he is available to us to come to our homes and share with us our joy of the fruits that we produce in our daily lives. He's not indifferent to our success. He's not indifferent to our joys as well. He wants to share with us. And of course, here, the disciples put the net there and caught so many fish, and we know that the disciples later on they went, to the world to to spread the gospel. And this gospel caught so many lives, caught so many hearts out of darkness. I could say out of the sea in a way. Jesus wants to them that, with their love, with the instruction that Jesus gave them throughout their life, they would be able to reach many thousands of people, and even so many people that they would reach out, their net would not explode, would not, tore apart, because when we did is saying that you can embrace and help as many people as we can, and our heart is able, we are able to hold these people, these troubled people that we may be able to help. They would not turn ourselves apart, they would not trouble our souls. Sometimes we are afraid to reach out because we think that these troubled people or the troubles of the world would tear our lives apart, but it's not true. That's one of the other teachings that Jesus brings here. Let's go to another one because my time is going fast. So I bring in a little bit of everyone of this so-called miracles here, so we stimulate one another to go there and read it very careful and look for keywords so you can interpret in the way you want. I want to say you that there's much more in the miracles of Jesus than just the phenomenon of healing or anything else. Jesus once more deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. Take away the stone, he said. But Lord, said Martha, the sister of the dead man, by this time there is a bad odor, for he has been there 4 days. Then Jesus said, did I not tell you that if you believe, if you see the glory of God? So they took away the stone. Then Jesus looked up and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me. When he had said this, Jesus called in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen, and a cloth around his face. Jesus said to them, take off the grave clothes and let him go. This Lazarus raised from the dead is my favorite. But I'm gonna bring just a little bit for you here. The Lazarus was a good friend of Jesus, by the way, and according to the story, Lazarus was sick, and Martha, his sister, sent for Jesus, and Jesus took 3 days to come. That's why when Jesus came, he said that Lazarus were dead already and buried in the cave. One of first point I want to bring here about this miracle as well, that Lazarus weren't dead per se. Jesus didn't really resurrect Lazarus from real death. That's the spiritist point of view, that Jesus would transgress any laws to save no one, and including Lazarus. What happened, according to Spiritism and our understanding, is that Lazarus weren't dead at all. He had a illnesses, could be like we call cataleptic states, some of these illness that gives apparent death for someone. We have many, examples of these, even today, when the person is mistaken for dead and buried alive. We know many cases of this, but in fact, Lazarus were not dead. He were apparently dead, but he wasn't dead at all. That's one of point that I want to bring first here. But the symbolism here is that Jesus, when he came to there, and there were a crowd of people, many people around, and Jesus, when he saw this scene of people sad and crying for a friend that were supposed to be dead, the text saying here that Jesus were moved. It means that Jesus were emotionally involved in the situation. Jesus felt compassion for these people. He just didn't came in and said, "No, people, he's not dead. I'm gonna help him. He's gonna come out. You're gonna see it." Like maybe we would do it, right? No, Jesus had a process. He had an emotional involvement in every case. Jesus wants to teach us, when we helping people, let us not go there as a robot, indifferent to the situation, and help like um, it is as we are not there at all. Jesus, every time he were emotionally involved. That's one lesson for us. Every time that we go help someone, let us be compassionate. Sometimes we can even cry with the person, shed a tear for someone else. So that was Jesus' compassion for these people, and that people felt the love of Jesus, because where they saw in the face and body language of Jesus that he were like uh, involved with the situation. And Jesus said to Martha, he's not a dead man. Jesus knew he was not dead. He was like raising the hopes of Martha. And he was told that he was in this cave was a tomb. He was buried in there, and there was a big stone sealing the tomb, and he was inside. And Jesus, in order to help Lazarus, he used, the people around. He asked people to remove the stone so Jesus could call out Lazarus. First of all, here in most of the miracles of Jesus, Jesus asked help for himself as well. Jesus was a strong man, physically saying. He could by himself walk up there and maybe remove the stone himself, right? Or maybe could have said to someone, "Let's go up there and remove this stone so we can do whatever we came here to do." No, he wanted people to feel useful. He wanted people to make part of his job of, of raising Lazarus. In our days, Jesus wants us to take part in his job on earth as well. That's why he asked people to help him. Go up there, help me, so we can help him. Jesus as well is asking us, Adriano, Leo, Danielle, or somebody else, go out there and help this person. So, help me so I can help this person. We can be this intermediary of the Lord. That's what happens when we do some church. We're this intermediary, for a big job. We the people, that removed the stone, they couldn't raise Lazarus, right? But they could remove the stone. Sometimes we can remove the stone. We can't do the big job as well, but we can go there and remove someone's stone, and then let the rest for somebody more, loving than us, more skilled than us, and so forth. That's one of the lessons that Jesus wants to show us here. Cooperation. Cooperation. Nobody can do everything alone. And even Jesus, that he could do, he didn't do it alone. Many occasions we're going to see that Jesus asking for help. And if Jesus asked for help, whom of us to say, I do it alone? In my center, it's just me. In our church, in my community, in my home? No, it's a work of many that Jesus wants to tell us here as well. And the people went there and removed the stone, the ceiling that were sealing the tomb. And Jesus called out Lazarus and saying here that Jesus called Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out. It is his and and feet wrapped with strips of linen. Let us imagine here that might know. Let us see here that when Jesus called Lazarus, Jesus called him in loud voice, right? Lazarus, come out, and Lazarus came out, right? And then Jesus again asked for help. Go there and unwrap that man because he was wrapped in a linen cloth, tying his feet and his hand and so forth. Emmanuel explains this resurrection of Lazarus here in 3 or 4 pages, and his explanation, his symbol in this, Lazarus wrapped his hand in his feet, and his face was covered as well. He's saying here that his hands and his feet was tied with this linen cloth, right? It means that it means that our imperfections, our vices, is that what is tying our hands in our feet. Because the real death is our vices, our darkness. Unwrapping is when we overcome each and every vices that we have. Corrupt passion, vanity, hatred. All these are wraps that tied us in these deep tombs, in this deep darkness. And, when we are wrapped in this darkness of vices, we cannot move. We are as dead spiritually, we can say. That's why, Jesus asked for someone else to help Lazarus to unwrap him. Jesus, Lazarus were there in a dark cave, wrapped. It's like, you know, we sometimes spiritually, we are in this cave wrapped in dark thoughts, wrapped in darkness, in hatred, in vengeance. When Jesus asked Lazarus to come out, Lazarus came out, but Jesus had to ask him very loud. And let us remember that Lazarus came out by himself. Jesus didn't ask the people to go inside the tomb and push, and grab him out. Jesus wanted Lazarus to do his part as well in his healing. Jesus didn't want to transgress Lazarus' free will. He was there lying in darkness, and came the invitation of Jesus. Very loud invitation for Lazarus. But we're up to Lazarus to come out of the tomb, right? We see nobody grabbing him out there. We don't see Jesus forcing him out of the tomb. Jesus is always helping people, is always helping us, removing the stone of our souls, doing this or that. But if we don't do our part, Jesus won't do for ourselves. He loved Lazarus so much, very deeply, as he loves us. But Jesus will not go inside there or ask someone to go inside there and grab him by force. Jesus wants us as well when we are helping people. Don't grab them by force. Don't force them. No. We give the invitation, but we need to give the invitation, right? Like here, Lazarus was so deep buried, deep in trouble, that he couldn't walk there out by himself, remove the stone by himself out, right? Like he could walk out. So he needed help. There are so many people in deep darkness that they can't do their job alone. That's why we, in many occasions, serve as this intermediary between God, Jesus, to help someone else in deep darkness. Let us not pretend that these people in deep darkness, deep hatred, they're gonna come out of the tomb, out of their trouble by themselves. No, it needs our help. We can do something. We can remove some stone out of the way for these people to come out of their tombs, to come out of their darkness. We can light up a little light so they can see their way out. Let us not say, this people, this person, this spirit is so deep in darkness, so it must be a way out that he can find later on in next reincarnation or so. It might be that we are the ones to remove the stone for this person. When we pray for them, when we call them out of darkness, right? And Jesus invited him very loud. What is the loud invitation? Sometimes in our lives, Jesus asks us very kind, very, like a whisper in our ears, Adriano, it's time for you to move on, to forgive. It's just this intuition, this inspiration that comes to our heart, right? But most of the time throughout our lifetimes, we don't listen this low voice, this loving voice of Jesus. The loud voice means here hard lessons. Loud voice, it means that sometimes we have to go through difficult pain, like, expiation, be a blind or deaf or something very, deeply difficult. These things can be this loud call of Jesus. But first, maybe Jesus didn't want to call us so loud that we can wake up, right? Can be just this gentle invitation, which is just by reading a passage of the gospel, we learn to forgive. We learn to be charitable. Those are the gentle voice. But when the loud voice came out and wake up, come out, it means that we are in deeply pain. Let us not wait for that. We already came out of our tombs, came out of our darkness, our death, because we are resurrected by the invitation of Jesus. But if we, maintain ourselves, keep up with the light that we receive, it may be that our light will be dimming and dying away, and we may find ourselves buried again in these caves that we may or might need someone else again to remove a stone, and we might even need a loud voice again, Adriano, come out, through a difficult reincarnation of expiation. Let us not pretend that we are free from these caves, free from the death, the spiritual death, because we are just came out of there. And if we came out of there, we're still fragile. We need Jesus, the following up of Jesus in our lives, right? And let us help someone else to untangle themselves from their problem. Sometimes we see people so wrapped up in situation that we can, oh my God, how can this person be so wrapped up in so, thousand different conflicts and situations? that they cannot come and unwrap themselves alone. Let us be the one to, untie a knot, right? And these knots that Emmanuel tells us can be the knots that we tied in previous reincarnations, that we still untangle them, unknoting them, I would say, this way. It means here cooperation, intercession for one another, and and walking forward, doing our part. Jesus is inviting us today. Jesus is calling us again to walk forward, to unwrap ourselves. But Jesus were not forcing us. He's not forcing us to follow the spirits, not forcing us to follow spiritist teachings. It's just his invitation, his love, and it's up to them. And when we walk forward, there will be people around us to help us. Because sometimes people and even us are so deep buried in situation that we see no one out there willing to help us. It might have happened to Lazarus. He was buried there, and he could have thought, I'm dead here. Nobody out there looking for me. Nobody out there trying to help me. But maybe for his surprise, when the tomb was opened, there were people ready there to help him unwrap his feet and take the cloth out of his vision. And so many people, so many friends were ready to help him. It can be this way in our life. Sometimes we feel this way, but if we walk forward, if we give a step, it may be a lot of people out there helping us, and most of the occasions is they are really out there and waiting for us to give our first step so they can embrace ourselves and help us even move more ahead. Let us never think that we are alone. That's another lesson. And of course, it's the last one, and I think my time is up. I'm just gonna read here. And Jesus healed the blind. Oh, sorry. This is I'll read here. Matthew 20:22. Just then, a woman who had been subject to the bleeding for 12 years came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloth. She said to herself, "If I only touch his cloth, I will." Okay, computer, you today. Really? If I only touch him cloth, I will be healed. Jesus turned and saw her. Take heart, daughter, he said. Your faith has healed you. And the woman was healed at the moment. I don't have much time. I guess 1 minute. I'll wrap this. But uh, just a teaser here. We see this woman, and just a curiosity. In the miracles of Jesus, we don't see many miracles involving women or women. I guess this one, two or three. I don't really remember, but we don't see, you know, uh, for example, Jesus healing blind woman, infirm woman, possessed woman, like in men. This is a curiosity that you can go there and see why the women is not so involved in the miracles of Jesus. They were better, maybe they were right, much better, not so sinful, and so you know. I don't know. It's up to you to go there and study that. It's a curiosity, and we see that this woman she were very persistent. She were like, yeah, forcing herself in the middle of this crowd, like it, it everything for us requires work, requires effort. And in many miracles of Jesus that we see, the plaintiff, the person that wanted to the miracle, wanted the healing, they had to work hard. And this woman here, she didn't just stay there in the corner. Let us stay here in this shadow of this tree and wait for Jesus to pass by and he will heal me. She had to do a very big deal of work, risk herself, and even just touch, the cloth of Jesus. When Jesus felt that, of course, uh, healed her. In this case here, Jesus said, "Your faith." It's not all the miracles of Jesus that Jesus talked about. Faith of the plaintiff, of the person, looking for the healing. In this case here, she had a great faith, and when we have a great faith, we persevere. Faith doesn't mean that I speak now and happens. I have a good faith. It means that later on tonight, all my problems will go away. All my infirmities will go away later on because I have big faith. Someone can have a big, big faith and still struggle for a long time to achieve what she wants, because we only understand that something happened to us in a proper time and in the right time for us. In despite of our faith, Jesus and God wants us the best. And if our faith, you know, is big, even though uh, we suffer, Jesus and God will wait until the good moment and the proper moment happen. And what happened to this woman? She had for 12 years she had this infirmity, and let us imagine what she has gone through in 12 years, a long time, and still she maintained her faith. She could have suicided herself. She had killed herself along the way, but she didn't. She persevered. It means that she had a great faith. And if we have a great faith, we persevere in our projects, in whatever we want to achieve. So let us work and persevere. Okay, I think I'm finished here. My computer. Okay, Leo, take over.
I was in mute. Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Thank you.
my
Well,
last words were to persevere and work ahead.
that is true. Well, Adriano, thank you for taking the time to share this with us, and to put this work together, because we know that each of these miracles, there are tons of things that we can discuss, that we can go over, and again, to be able to digest, we would need more time, obviously, much more time for each of them, I would like to say. But thank you for the reminder as well that you brought at the beginning of your talk, which is to read the codification as well, right? To make sure that we go to the Genesis, and through Spiritism, and we understand a little bit more. We learn a little bit more about these teachings as well, of the miracles, how they were performed, why they were performed, and so we can have a broader way to understand that as well. And you brought amazing topics, in terms of perseverance, right? Cooperation. You talked about, which was really interesting as well, a point that I never thought about the fish and the bread, and again, it goes back to the idea of cooperation, that they gave what they had, right? So there's a lot that we can learn, and a lot that we can bring to our day-to-day lives, right? Because sometimes we think, oh, this is just something that happens, um, with the right people at the right time. Well, we could be also any time of our lives in the right location, and we could be that right person, right? So there's a lot that we can learn from this. Obviously, we would need more time to discuss them all. However, we would like to share. I'm gonna remove one thing here. I'll keep it here in case somebody asks and do need to. However, we'd like to share some of the hellos, the welcomes that we had here. Iracema says, "Good evening, friends, and welcome, Adriana. Wish a blessed talk for all of us." Katya also saying, "Good afternoon." Danielle, giving a big heart there. Antonia saying, "Good evening." And many, many others. So Kirsten with "Hey friends," and then Danielle saying again, "Great topic, Adriano." And then let's jump into the questions and comments here. And I would like to start with Yasko when she asks, "Hi, Adriano. In the case of the healing, the obsessed boy, the small faith of the disciples, what would be the reason for that?" And once more, I think she's referring to the small faith of the disciples. that they didn't trust they had a power to heal, or they lacked real compassion for the father or for the sick boy? Or did they not quite understand the love of this father for his son? Or else, it seems the conditions most of us, right? So I guess a comment on what she's saying there. Actually,
Well, according to Jesus, here is the lack of faith, right? He said, because you have so little faith, you couldn't heal the boy that's there.
mhm.
Jesus pointing out right the problem that they had, and of course, why they didn't have that faith, which it can be a lot of things, like you know, even them they couldn't figure that out, and even with us today, sometimes we can't figure out exactly why we don't have that strong faith. And it can be many things. For them could be a lack of experience, with the sick and infirm people. And of course, can be, lack of love, a little, can be, lack of trust in themselves, because of course, um, that happened in the in the beginning of their discipleship with Jesus. They like, they haven't performed yet miracles, so-called miracles, healings and obsession. And someone unexperienced, we lack trust. The more experience we have in something, the more trust we have. So later on in their lives, they performed a lot of healings because they were experienced in that. So by experience and by the results, of course, they are trusting more and more. It's like this in our life, right? And uh, I'm not sure if there is something related to the father. I mean, I think all of them, like Peter, he, he were father, as he were married, right? At least he were married, and they were family people. I think they didn't, they had compassion for the father, um, and love for the father as well. But they tried, they tried. What Jesus wants us sometimes, even though we fail, they tried. They had, they couldn't do the job, but they tried, right? That's the first step. Sometimes we even can try, right? They say, no, I can't do this. I'm not evolved enough. I'm not good enough. And so we don't try. But they tried. They tried to expel, they tried to obsess the boy, but they couldn't. And that's the first step. And I think that's a big and huge step for them, because they were beginners.
Very well, Adriano. I think that is a good point that you bring here. They were good people, right? And I think they one of the first thing that you said, as well as, the more you know about something, the easier and the more you will believe in it, right? So I
Hmm.
think and I think that it takes a lot of practice as well, in the healing process, in the idea of help, right? So the more we do, guess what? I think we'll get to the point, um, to be able to help more. I'm not talking about miracles, but to do things that perhaps that sometimes we think that is much greater than ourselves. Great point there. Daniel Santos asks, the disciples start to heal people after Jesus had gone. What was the big change in such short time that the disciples had to do to be able to perform such actions?
I think it happens to many of us as well. They had Jesus there available for them to do the job, right? In the case of the boy, Jesus asked, "I won't be with you forever," you know, saying to them, later on I'm gonna parting away, and what you gonna do, right? So Jesus passed away, he gone. So they had to, to embody what they were. They had to do the job. They not relying in Jesus anymore fully, right? and that's what inspired them most, I think. It's like us sometimes let us see, let us, for example, let us imagine that we had Chico Xavier in our center, the director of our center. We wouldn't be so doing as much as we do now because we are relying on Chico Xavier. He would, taking care of the situation, the obsessed, the ill people, and so forth. We can rely on them, but Shikshravya is gone, and now what are you gonna do? And then we had to work even hard. We have to trust harder, and I think that's what happened to the disciples. They saw by themselves, and they had to, to do it. And by that trust and by putting more effort, they could do it. I would not think other explanation other than that.
Thank you, Adriano. I'm gonna skip Daniel here because he also asked a question, but I'll come back to Daniel here. But Fiasco also asked, first miracle, the wedding. It always called my attention that his mother knew his time had come, and why not him? Nevertheless, Jesus confirmed the miracle that initiated his short ministry. Was he playing modesty, or didn't want to disappoint his mother?
Well, there's, um, I think we have to study more on this miracle and many others to discover the hidden symbols, and sometimes we even have to go back to the traditions of the time. I don't really know why he said those things because I didn't got into that part in deeply. But of course, Jesus, he were perfect and he wouldn't play modest at all. I mean, he were truly himself and he wouldn't pass an image that he were not. And we have to assume something else. So, but of course, here we can understand that Jesus, he was son and he loved his mother very much. And of course, Jesus knew that would be a shortage of wine. He had this sight of the future, of course. And why that, like Emmanuel said, in there, why he chose the wedding, because he wanted that to happen there, the transformation of the wine. Despite the words of his mother were the intermediary for asking, to multiply to the transformation of the wine. But the miracle, I think, would happen anyway if his mother wouldn't ask him, because Emmanuel would say to us that this miracle were like one of the symbols, were the first symbol of his contract to humanity. So if it were something that Jesus wanted to teach us there, he had this set in his mind beforehand that he would perform that miracle and teach us a lesson in this occasion, because the occasion of the wedding were just one. The whole ministry of Jesus had no other wedding. If Jesus had missed it that day, he would not have performed that miracle, that kind of miracle maybe in his ministry, right? So in this way, he knew all the things beforehand. And why the conversation went that way, I don't really know why, but I would assume that he replied that way out of compassion and understanding for his mother and for the people as well, the embarrassment that would cause for the people the lack of wine, because it was a traditional thing for the time, would be like a disaster and maybe compromise the marriage of the couple, right? I'm sorry if I couldn't answer you more deeply, but I promise I will study more this part.
I think you did well, Adriana, because you by saying that, if I'm paraphrasing here, that Jesus wouldn't show himself what he was not, based on his balance and perfectness, right? I think that alone tells us quite a bit. But we will move on, and Daniel asks, "Do you think science will be able to explain miracle events one day?"
I think it's already explained a lot, right? Because in the past we assumed that something were a miracle because we didn't understand even the healings, right? We have so many healings today, you know, that happens, spontaneous healings and these mineralistic healings that we know, and science is already explaining part of it because everything that happens in the earth or elsewhere in the universe, so to speak, is explainable. And if something so-called miracle today is not yet explained by science, is because science is not advanced enough and didn't discover the laws and principles that govern this kind of miracles. But of course, whatever have whatever happens that we call miracle today and it's not explained yet will be explained later, and something maybe in the future, like 100 years from now or even more, we say, oh my god, it was so simple as that. When we discover the laws and the principles, it's simple, but yet it's not. It's like what all the technology that we have today, computers seeing each other now and hear each other, now. In the past were something unimaginable, right? And so now it's so simple and explainable. I think miracle consists only until we don't explain it, right? But miracles is explainable in the future, of course.
Thank you, Adriano. I believe last question here, unless someone poses another one here, then we're going to go to some final comments and I'll ask you to say the final prayer. But Kirsten asks, Lazarus answered the call of Christ and walked out of the tomb. But in our modern days, we often need a large support system to call us out of the cave. So, how is this parable applicable in our modern times under these aforementioned circumstances?
Well, how it works today, it thousand different ways, we have been called. Jesus is asking us from different ways. Sometimes a therapist, right? We are in difficult situation. A therapist says something to us, calling us off our trouble. Sometimes is in a spiritual center through a talk someone gives or a study group when we read a book with someone else, and could be in our dream time when we go to sleep, we go to the spiritual world, and then there's this dream about something, and of course an encounter with a spirit that will help us understand our situation, and can be many things, can be our parents, right, calling us to do the right thing, can be sometimes even a harsher situation in an example where, let's say, a criminal is performing bad deeds and he get arrested or she get arrested and get a very long jail sentence, and it is a calling, don't go in this way anymore, you're going to get more and more in trouble. And then even though when he or she got incarcerated, there is someone there that might counsel him or her out of the trouble, introducing religious for the person. One thing we are sure, even though our system everywhere that we go is faulty in many ways, even the spiritual centers, the churches, and political and justice system is faulty, but it's permeated with calls. It's permeated calls, and the good spirits, our mentors, Jesus and God, will use every single good situation, every opportunity to call us out of our cave. Nobody will stay in the cave because they were not called. Nobody, nobody ever is excusable to say they were not called. Oh no, I'm here for 1,000 years because I couldn't hear the call. Nobody called me. No, somebody, something, some situation have called. We may have put our hands in our ears, We have, ignored the calls, but the call were made, and we have heard it, and we couldn't move on. But I think the system, despite faulty as it is, there is situations, and Jesus, you will find them out to call us out of it.
Thank you, Adriano. I once more I would like to thank you. As many of our friends here have shared, Daniel said, "Great reflection, Adriano." Jeanette said, "Hi, Adriano, nice talk." Katya also saying, "Thank you." And I would like to make Kirsten's words ours, not only mine but ours, when she said, "Wow, Adriano, you've really brought many new perspective. I never thought of it." Excellent presentation, my friend. So yes, amazing topics, obviously, in discussion, but also the perspectives that you brought, right? And that is in itself as an invitation for all of us to go back and study, study these miracles with these new perspectives, as well as to build our own. I think we're also powerful and intelligent enough to open our hearts to it and see how we fit in it, how we can fit these teachings also in our day-to-day life. So thank you again, from the bottom of our hearts, and we would like to invite you to say our final prayer so we can bid ourselves farewell. Thank you so much, and I will pass the word back to you so you can say the final prayer.
Oh, it's me that doing the final prayer?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I was just a couple words before. I just there's miracles. I just started, studying the miracles. It was just a year ago, and I since then I start studying them here and there, and usually I do one miracle at a time. Like tomorrow, gonna do one in Mori Luis, the healing of this man of Capernaum. Will be like whole hour dedicated to one, only one. And so my objective is to do every one of them throughout the years to come. But I just started a beginner, so that's why I brought some here, few here today. But the intention is to study them deeply, very deep. In the future, we may just do one or half. So we go deeper, and by them, by God's grace, I will understand more about those miracles.
We know where to find you, so believe me, you will come back.
Okay.
All right, my
uh,
friend. Thank you.
so let us this moment in which we put ourselves available for the light and for the love that is available to everyone in this universe. Lord our Father, thank you so much for the blessings that you have given us throughout our lives, and the blessings to meet today in this moment where we share our feelings, our thoughts, our reflections. We could say that this moment that we share together here, this moment, is a miracle if it thought in the past. But for us today, it's not a miracle anymore because, Lord, we wanted this moment. We worked hard for this moment. And we want more moments of this with our brotherhoods and sisterhoods of Spiritism and Christianity. So that every moment that we meet and study your lessons, we learn more. We bring your guidance, your teachings to our daily lives. Every time that we study Spiritism, that we bring this key that Spiritism offers us, we see that every word that you said, every movement, every gaze, every thing that you did had a meaning, a guidance, a teaching for us. And every day and every step of the way that we learn that, we are more efficient in transforming ourselves, in loving each other. So, Jesus, please Strengthen ourselves with your love, so we may be able to overcome the obstacles ahead of us. That is still sometimes is a big stone in our pathway. But you have strengthened us and we'll be able to go around or move it out. Lord, please fulfill our hearts with your love and your care, so we can see in our brothers and sisters of the whole world as this family thirsty for the spiritual bread, so we can give them forgiveness, we can give them compassion, we can give them understanding. It is not by chance that this people, this crowd of people is around ourselves, so thirsty, so hungry. We may not be able to feed themselves, all them, but we can offer them a fish of understanding, a bread of prayer, or something else so that will do the difference. Lord, in every moment of our souls, please multiply the little things that we can give, so this world will be transformed in your kingdom of peace, compassion, understanding, and so on. Please, Lord, embrace every one of us in this moment, our families, and mainly and especially those who hate more, those that don't understand love yet and put themselves in the line of hatred against each other. Those, Lord, are those more in need because they are the sickest of all. Our prayer may reach their hearts and in some way bring a little light to their pathway, a little hope for them. So in the future, they will be as loving as everyone else. So in this tone, in this heart filled with peace and lightness, we may wrap this moment, sure to be with you and you be with us in every step of our life, in our day to day activities and tasks and work and family and so forth. So be it. Amen.
Hey, Adriano, thank you so much again, and I will see you everyone the next time around. Hope everyone have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.